Welcome to Fusing the Unfusable. Today we have Amro Nahas. Amro is Managing Director of the Ritz Banc Group, which he will tell us about shortly. He's a seasoned professional with over 28 years of experience in consulting, corporate investments, investment banking across the US, Canada, MENA. He has a remarkable track record in real estate financial services. He's worked on projects of over $3 billion and managed portfolios of over $2 billion. Amro currently serves as a board member of Masik Logistics and Al Rumeh Industrial Complex Industrial Commercial Group. Previously, he led the real estate investment division at Mohammed Al Subai'i and Sons Investments and Shua Capital in Saudi Arabia, managing local and international real estate funds. His extensive career includes senior roles at HSBC, Al Ula International, where he spearheaded major IPOs, private placements, cross-border transaction. Amro's contributions to the real estate investment sectors are vast, including setting up and development and equity funds and structuring debt transactions in both conventional and Islamic finance. Welcome to the show, Amro.
Thank you.
It's great to have you. Can you tell us a little bit more about Ritz Banc Group? Because I understand it really helps investors in this part of the region gain better access to some of the more interesting US real estate products.
So Ritz Banc Group is a private equity asset manager specialized only in real estate that is focused on non-US investor investing in the US. We do have US investors, but our main target is helping non-US investor in the US, because a lot of investors that invest directly into US real estate don't understand how to come into the US, how to invest in the US, how to be tax efficient investing in the United States real estate sector. And we specialize into, industrial, office, and residential investments into the US, and we help these investors access, the institutional U.S. real estate sector.
Interesting, and I mean, whenever we're expanding scope, I love it, and you made your transition. You made your transition from working for companies to owning, being owner or partner in this company. What when you were evaluating and assessing, making that decision, it's a big move, and a lot of our viewers probably thinking about the same thing at some point. What did you look for in terms of use cases, product feasibilities, and what were the main criteria as you made that move back in 2020?
First, let's talk about what triggered me to do that before maybe we get this. And, when you cross a certain age and you look at yourself and you say, okay, how long is my shelf life? For me, somebody going into retirement, the word retirement does not exist. My father is above 90 and he still goes to his office every day. So, and I've seen the longevity of people and the success of people that have longevity in their careers, because a lot of people flourish. Some people flourish very early on, but these are the exceptions of the exceptions, and some people flourish later on and they want longevity in their careers. So that's the trigger why I left maybe more the corporate, being an employee, to really owning something. The second thing is, when you do that, you need to look at partners. First, a company that needs growth, and so somebody that needs your skill set and you needing their skill set. If there is no balance there, you just cannot achieve what you want to achieve. And you don't want to cannibalize what they're doing, and they don't need to cannibalize what you're doing. And then you need partners that have a thinking process and a cultural fit that fits with you, because partnering with people is even worse than marriage, because there's so much at stake, so much money at stake, so many things at stake. So especially also that, my partners in the company is based in the US and I'm based here in the UAE. So you need to have almost a blind trust in who you're dealing with. You cannot micromanage people sitting like 10,000 miles away. So that was, it was a process to finding these partners, to finding a fit, to finding a company that is small and needs to grow, etc. And, you need luck. Luck is 90% of success. You can do all the hard work in the world, and if you're an unlucky person, and you need luck yourself, and you need your partners to be lucky as well. My father always told me, put your money with lucky people, because you can hire anybody in the world, if you have the money, but you cannot buy luck. So you need some luck in this world. And alhamdulillah, I was, fortunate enough and lucky enough to find partners like mine.
I remember when you did join them, and what fascinated me at the time, and this, we jump to the next question, which is, we're a show about Web3 and digital transformation, and you know that very well. You've known me for a while, that I'm in that space. What were, for me, how did you look at the whole digital transformation aspect, the challenges? And I mean, I was there, we were in discussion, but, tell us a little bit about that, and, go into the details, the challenges, what you've overcome, and then maybe we can zero in on user experience, both for your customers and internally.
Look, first of all, I'm not somebody that is afraid of change. I think you need to embrace change. Man, people resist change. They don't like it. They like the status quo, being comfortable what they do. For me, being comfortable is going backward. You need to push the envelope. You need to push people. You need to be efficient. Being efficient is using technology. Today, any company in the world that does not use some kind of technology going forward, within the next 5 years, they're going to be dinosaurs and they're going to die. They need to use AI. If you don't embrace AI and use AI, people are afraid of AI, I think, because they don't understand it. And I believe, AI does not take decisions on your behalf. AI is a fast calculating tool that you need to use to be able to be more efficient in taking decisions. You cannot rely on AI to take your decisions. And a lot of people, maybe, I don't know, put systems and then they think that these systems are gonna, make their decisions. And, systems do not make decisions.
What I always say is that using digital, I try to enable decision makers to make the right data-driven decisions, right? Yeah. So having the data, but you still have to make the decision.
You need to analyze data and make decisions. The second thing is transparency. For me, transparency is key. You cannot be somebody that wants to attract people investing and believing in you if you're not transparent with them. So giving them access also to their data is very important. Making them understand that, there is nothing hidden there. You can log into our system. So the first thing is really looking at your systems, looking at what they provide. And personally, having been an investment banker, sitting on the buy side and managing huge portfolios, etc., I understand the requirement of what I wanted. And basically, that very few people were able to offer me that kind of service. And I tried as much as possible looking at what we have, enhancing it to be able to provide that service to our investors, and then enhancing the experience internally to the employees and to ourselves. Instead of having 20 people writing reports for me every month, I wanted to have something that can provide efficiency and reduce errors. Because human errors is, the most critical thing that you need to avoid in businesses. So if somebody gets an Excel sheet and starts fiddling with the Excel sheet, they're going to make errors, no doubt about it, unless you have 10 people reviewing it, and still there is a margin of error. When you pull data from systems, there is, unless the systems have the error, but then the error is there all along, but at least, this error goes almost to zero. You have much faster access to data, and you sitting 10,000 miles away can be as if you're transported and sitting in your assets, looking at the data on a daily basis.
Working off a platform and is so important. And then when I think that, a lot of us are working as remote teams. So you're here. they're there. They may work on something when you're asleep. You wake up and then you want to see what's happening. So if they haven't inputted the data in real time on the platform, you're going to have to call and say, did you update this? Or then you're working off bad data. So one of the challenges that we face is how do we get people to work in real time in the platform?
Absolutely.
Not just as a dumping ground, or let me update the platform, or let me update the CRM.
Absolutely.
So this is a challenge. And did you face that? I mean, did you face that with getting everyone to kind of use the systems that you had?
Look, at the beginning, it was a difficult shift for some people that are used to doing things a certain way. And when you make them see that this is to their benefit, shifting to that, and it's gonna give them more time to do other things instead of just wasting time, updating data, and it's gonna allow them to better perform and better manage, and then their bonuses and their remunerations and everything is gonna be affected if they don't perform. And the more time you give somebody to think, because I am a believer that thinking is the most expensive commodity in the world. Okay, especially for employees. Employees don't have time to think. They just need to keep running and running and running just to achieve what they need to achieve. By giving them some time to think instead of just do. And once you have 5 minutes in the day to think, you can do things 10 times faster or 10 times better.
Yeah, I mean, we call there's several concepts. I think one of them is we call it deep work, right? So when do you get to do deep work? And if you're just, continuously just in operations mode, putting out fires, you never get to do deep work.
Absolutely.
And you're always chasing your tail and your productivity shoots down. So your approach was really explaining to them that using the platform would make them more efficient.
Absolutely.
That it would improve the quality of their work, but we would also align with the strategic objectives, which is to be more, have better quality data that would enable you, while you're using this data to go and talk to your potential investors, have the right data.
Yeah, and they will perform better. So that's, this is the transition, is really trying to take something that is a brick and mortar business, move it into more digital business, and basically making it a lot more efficient. So instead of you managing 2 assets, you can start managing 5 assets per person, 6 assets per person. So even your cost basis goes down.
Scaling.
Their efficiency becomes much higher. All the mundane work is out of the window. And we're trying to implement even more and more, put systems to be able to be more efficient. And then if people leave, this data stays in the company. So this intellectual property doesn't go with that person. It stays in the firm, and the firm value goes up. And if you want to 5, 10, 20 years from now say, okay, I want to exit now, everything is still stays in the firm.
I think this is very valuable advice for anyone building a company, to keep their data on a platform.
Absolutely.
Not in Excel sheets that may be defunct, or macros, or notebooks.
People leave. People leave. People look for opportunities. They leave. They go do something else, and basically taking their data and their thinking and with them puts you back every time a year and a half, until somebody else comes and rebuilds all of this. Well, when you capture it, it stays with the company.
It's so true. So this really, I think this is an interesting, let's say, jump or transition to the next question, which is, you said earlier that you wanted to give your customers access to their data.
Absolutely.
So they could see, and you were building that level of trust and transparency. And this is, in fact, what most of us in the Web3 space believe is one of the, let's say, most important features, right? Is that trust. We call it trustless. We call the systems trustless because you don't need to trust. You have that traceability. You have that transparency. So, how did you have any resistance from your partners or stakeholders to open up that data to the customers?
Not at all. I think this is something we've discussed early on. At the end of the day, somebody putting money with you, it's their money. It's not your money, and if they don't know what their money is doing, there's something wrong. And what I found out over a 30-year career, that people don't want you, but don't want you to find out what they're doing with their money, with your money. I want people to know what we're doing with their money. You know, if I'm investing my own money, nobody needs to know what I'm doing with my money. But if I'm investing your money, you need to know what I'm doing with your money. And if you don't know, there is a problem. There's an issue. There's somebody hiding something. And for me, there's nothing to be hidden. Everything you hide today is gonna blow up at some point in time. We've seen so many crises, so many companies go bankrupt, so many schemes, at the end of the day, you know, getting out, and, people losing all their money. And you cannot hide things. The more transparent you are in good times and bad times, people need to know bad things as well. They're investors, they're big boys. Nobody has invested money and just made money all the time. You lose some, but as long as you make a lot more than you lose, you know that's the name of the game. You're gonna make bad decisions, you're gonna make bad investments, but you need to make a lot more good investments. And hopefully, this is what we're trying to achieve.
This is so important. Now we're not talking about investments here. This is not our our field of expertise. But when you present, I'm sure to your investors, you do talk about risks,
Of course.
right? So you get to understand their risk appetite, and then you try to match them to the right product. And that transparency is, I think, what's interesting for me. That transparency and that trust that you put in the systems that you've built with your team, and then invite them to come and see, right? And give them that view. And I think it makes a difference. And it's probably one of the reasons that you've been successful in doing that. Now, I know that you're invested in Web3. You've invested, and this is not what we really want to talk about, so you understand it. But what I would like to know from you is, being that you're a subject matter expert in real estate, not only real estate in the region, global real estate, you also understand some of the limitations of real estate. Where do you see opportunities? And maybe you've heard of some of these use cases in Web3 around real estate. I mean, tokenization and fractional ownership of real estate, maybe one, but what are some of the others that you see?
I think blockchain is something that can be used more in real estate, especially on the contract side of real estate, on the acquisition, on the disposition, maybe on the leasing side. That will accelerate these things, that will reduce the cost of doing business. The cost of closing a transaction is astronomical.
So settlement, basically.
Yeah, look, you have legal work, you have registration, you have a lot of things, that you can, at some point, if you can create a system that can reduce these costs and accelerate the transaction timeline, that would be fantastic. And a lot of this is repetitive. I own a few real estate personally, and I always dreamt of a system where you can just go in on a platform where you can access all type of advisors, consultants. Everything is on a platform where we can transact seamlessly. You go to transact in Dubai, there's a system. You go to transact in France, there's another system. In the UK, in the US. If you can have something that is more generic, where you can use
interoperable, basically.
And you can use Web3, or you can use all these new technologies that can facilitate at least 30, 40, 50% of this repetitive things that you need to do every time you need to do something, and buy an asset and invest into something. That will go a long way.
It's really interesting. I wouldn't have thought of that right away. I would have thought more around the ownership. But since you deal with high net worth individuals and investors, for you, it's not really about fractional ownership.
No.
That's not your space. That could, you could consider it a way to democratize, let's say, or give broader access to regular people that don't have large amounts to invest. But
that exists already. crowdfunding and all of this exists already, where people
But there's no transparency in crowdfunding
at all. It's
Yeah, so tokenization of real world assets, fractional ownership is something that is growing, but it's not really related to what I find really interesting. What you just said is that it's really in the operation, in the settlement, in when you look at a life cycle. So what I love about what you said from the beginning is that you came from that space, so you had full perspective of what the customer.
yeah.
The term customer obsessed is something that we hear often, right? People that are really customer obsessed, they really look at the customer. What does the customer really want? You knew that because you were the customer.
Yeah.
And now you switched side and you went and now you're offering them as customers, and you know how to package the product and make sure that their concerns, their pain points are addressed. And I think that's really the key. But digging a little bit further into it, you're looking at, when you say repetitive tasks, I think I understand what you mean. It's more regulatory work.
Look, you have to do due diligence. Every time you do due diligence, you have to do environmental reviews, you have to do tax reviews, you have to do a review of the asset, of the market, of so many things you need to do as a due diligence. Maybe 50% of it is repetitive. Okay, when you need to do legal contracts, 50% of these contracts are repetitive. When you want to do leasing contracts, 90% of these contracts are repetitive, especially on the residential side. It's a template that they need to sign. There's a lot of things that you can enhance using the new technologies in the blockchain system, and then it's much more traceable, and it's much more you can go back, look at it, you can analyze it, you can mine it, you can dig into it, you can do so much stuff. If you don't use these systems, data disappear. Now, what we're trying to do to capture this is using some kind of AI, and you see even property managers use a lot of AI systems to analyze the markets, to know, you have 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, to dig into the comps, bring this data, analyze the data, put how much you need to lease these units at to be able to be competitive with your and all of this is used through AI. And I'm sure at some point, digging and linking to the Web3 and all these technologies is gonna come. But real estate is such an old industry. It's like if you want to take a car that is driven through petrol and changing that car into an electric is very different than building an electric car. So people that started the digital in that Web3 space, it's much easier for them to adapt to things. When you are in a very traditional business, trying to move it into that space is a little bit more difficult. The mentality, the systems, the way you do business needs to change. And changing all this mentality in a brick and mortar business is not an easy task.
It's incredible. When we look at assets, real estate represents the biggest asset class, right? We're talking about, I think, $300 trillion?
In the trillions.
In the trillions. And when we look at, what you're talking about, which is the transformation, real estate is really, really legacy. And even if you go into construction, construction and the companies and developers, and then when I think of AI and what could be done to optimize costs, utility cost of utilities, and what you can do, adjusting and creating simulations and so forth, it's exciting to see. Amro, it's been a pleasure. I look forward to having you back. I have to say, really, that we're lucky to have people such as yourself in an industry such as real estate that is so open-minded towards digital, because you've actually kind of managed to bear the fruits of digital, and we're lucky to have you, because we need people like you in our industry to make sure that we are able to convince legacy businesses to transform, to adopt technologies. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.